Hey guys, my name is Jasmine and today we're going to be making an optical illusion. Before we get started, I'm going to tell you what you need. You need at least one piece of paper, a Sharpie, any kind of Sharpie, could be a thicker Sharpie or a thinner Sharpie, a drawing pencil, which is also a graphite pencil, an eraser, colored pencils, and crayons. So what is an optical illusion? An optical illusion is basically a trick for your eyes. It is literally just an illusion for your eyes. So it's something that may seem like one thing, and it's not actually that thing. So for instance, with this optical illusion that we're going to be making, we're going to be making one that is basically going to show depth. So it's going to look like you can reach in to your optical illusion here, or that it is coming out at you, whichever way your brain ends up kind of thinking of that. So to get started, we're going to think about depth. And depth is how far away something is, how deep it looks. So for that, you're going to make a point anywhere on your paper. I'm going to do mine over here, literally just a dot. And I'm going to radiate lines out from that. So it's going to look like this. They're going to be even lines. I'm going to try and space everything out kind of evenly. I'm turning my paper because it kind of helps me. If you want to turn your paper, you can do that as well. Making straight lines straight out from my point there. So these are my lines, and I did that in pencil. Sorry, I forgot to mention that before. I did that in my graphite pencil. It's kind of important to do that with your graphite pencil. All these beginning things before we start coloring should be done with your graphite pencil, because otherwise we might need to erase things or move things around. So that is the beginning of that. And to show this depth, we're going to think about perspective, which is how things are basically angled. So if you think of the perspective like a bird's eye view, that's a top-down perspective, so it's like you're looking down at something. And that is kind of what we're going to play with here. Things that are in the distance are going to be closer to our point here, the first point that we made. So those are going to be smaller, because things that are farther away are smaller to the eye, and things that are closer to us look bigger. So keep that in mind. That also means that with this perspective, that our bigger shapes are going to cover our smaller shapes. So you're not going to have any smaller shapes that are on top of a bigger shape, because then that kind of messes up the further away perspective. And you'll kind of see what I mean as we are starting to put down our shapes here. I'm going to start plotting my shapes. I'm going to basically go in a mini kind of spiral to keep mine simple. If you want, you can do your form plotting in any way that you want to make it. I'm going to keep mine simple too by using circles. You can use whatever form you want, whatever shape you want. But yeah, I'm going to jump in. My distant shapes are going to be smaller. And then as they get closer, they're going to be bigger. All right, so these are my shapes. And once we get started with coloring, we'll kind of be able to see how this kind of works easier too. So if you see any of your lines going through your shapes, you can erase those lines, like these here. That will also help you kind of see your illusion a little bit better. Now, I'm going to outline all of my shapes with Sharpie. And if you don't use your Sharpie at all, you don't have to. Or if you don't have one, you also obviously don't have to use a Sharpie. I'm gonna make a new shape in distance. Alright. And I didn't have any of my larger shapes overlapping. I'll actually make one here. So, as I talked before, our bigger shapes are going to be on top of our smaller shapes, so that as they overlap, which means as they cross over one another, they're on top of one another. Our bigger shape is the one that you see on top. So, for instance, we'll do this one right here. Our smaller shape is on the bottom. We'll do this one over here too. Our smaller shape is on the bottom. Make that one a full circle. So I'm whenever I'm outlining, I'm not crossing over the top one because that's the big one. And that's the one that we need on top because it's closer to us. So your background pattern is going to be a 2-color pattern. So you can keep it black and white if you want. You can do 2 colors like blue and pink, for instance. So to make sure that I have the right amount of lines, I'm going to mark my shapes. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. So one of mine needs to be split because otherwise I'll have 2 colors that are next to one another, the same color that are next to one another. So I'm gonna split this one. So there's another line. Now I'm gonna mark all of my lines in Sharpie just like I did with my shapes. And then I will color everything, both my shapes and my lines, my background here. And once again, our lines are not covering our shapes. Our shapes are on top of our lines because our shapes are what is closer to us. So those are all of the lines. I'm going to erase all of my pencil lines and then I'm going to start coloring. And as you're working on this, just like with a lot of artwork, if you kind of flip it, and maybe you like it one way, that's not the way that you started it, that's completely okay. Maybe that's the way that it is for you. I think I'm gonna actually end up liking mine another way than from what I originally started as with the way that my paper is turned. And that's fine. Keep an open mind, turn your paper, see how it looks. You can also just flat out see how differently it looks. And if you like it the original way, that's fine. All right. Through all of my pencil lines. All right, missed a little bit. All right, I'm gonna start coloring with my background first. I'm gonna use orange and do yellow. I like dandelion yellow a lot, it's a good color. So yellow and orange are going to be my background colors. And once again, like I mentioned before, this is going to be in a pattern. So our colors are going to alternate. I might actually, I'm going to change my orange to purple. So I think yellow and orange are too close to one another. Which if you want to do colors that are close to one another, that's fine. I just don't want to use that for my piece here. And like I think I mentioned before, if you wanted to do black and white for your background, you can absolutely do that. Your color choices are completely up to you. Even if you wanted to try a 3-color background, you can do that. Just make sure that your colors are correct in terms of that they won't collide next to one another. So for instance, if you did yellow, orange, and purple, your purples wouldn't be together, your yellows would be together, your oranges wouldn't be together, Make sure that you have your pattern laid out correctly. And my last yellow. I might actually, no. I was gonna say I might keep my white background white, but I'm gonna continue to color purple. That's red. That's purple. So, jump on to my next color of my pattern, which is my purple here. There's one purple. If you wanted to keep your entire piece on like the black and white, grayscale kind of thing, you could do your background black and white, like I mentioned before. And along with that, for your shapes, you can do different shades of gray. You can make them colorful, have that kind of pop off of your background, which would be cool. There are lots of possibilities for what you can do for this with color and shape. And then for my shapes, I'm going to do 2 different colors. You can do however many colors you want. You can do 1 color if you want. You can do 2, like I'm going to do, or you could do 1 and 2. I'm going to do blue and red. So, for my overlapping shapes, I'm going to try and not make them the same color, because if they're going to run together, it's going to look a little weird. So, keep that in mind for your own possibly overlapping shapes. I don't really care personally if 2 of my same colors are next to each other. For my shapes, I care more so if they are my background colors that are next to each other and the same color. I might throw a 3rd color in for my shapes. That is my red. I'm going to move on to my blue. I'm going to do 1 more color for my shapes here. I'm going to do a darker blue. There is our optical illusion. So, once again, an optical illusion is an image that kind of plays trick on your eyes. Like this one here, it kind of shows depth, which means it kind of it shows how far away something is. It looks like this is deeper than it actually is, because our shapes back there are smaller, and our bigger ones up here are bigger, obviously, and things that are further away seem smaller, and things that are closer to you seem bigger. So we also talk about perspective, which that's just what this is. It kind of shows like a top-down thing. Excuse me. It's kind of like you're falling into it. It's kind of like a funnel, because we also have shapes that are overlapping. So our bigger ones are on top of our smaller ones. And yeah, I hope you guys make more of these. There are lots you can do, like how I kind of mentioned before. You can make a grayscale kind of version where things are just black and white, and then your shapes are different shades of gray. And I hope you guys do just that and play around with this more. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.